to my channel. My name is M.R.E.ngineering and today I'm going to talk about tires. I think this video is going to be one of the most viewed videos of my channel because tires have a major role in safety, comfort and handling of your car in driving, and also they wear out, so you need to pay for them every so often. Tires have three main functions on your car. They support the vehicle and the loads, and since they can roll, you can use them to go forward and backward. And also tires absorb the road irregularities, and of course partially because suspension system is the main player for this issue, and also tires provide an interface for braking and steering and maneuvering on the road for your car. Now, before I go to technicals, let me to cast a background to the subject. Unlike the wheels that we cannot find any origin or inventor, there are some records for tires. I'll start with natural rubber. Natural rubber is extracted from a tree called Hevea brasiliensis, and it's extracted in the form of a milky substance called latex. Adding carbon black particles as a reinforcement agent turns color of this latex into black. But at the beginning of 1840s, British and American inventors Thomas Hancock and Charles Goodyear in two different researches found out that adding sulfur to this natural rubber can hugely improve its elasticity, and this process is called vulcanization. And then in 1888, the Scottish inventor John Boyd Dunlop made the first pneumatic rubber tire for his child's tricycle using canvas and rubber. And less than 1 decade later, and in France, Michelin brothers used the first pneumatic rubber tires on automobile. Now let me to talk more scientific and give you some technical information that would be very useful for the following. I can say that there is no standard compound or defined production method for producing tires, but surely there are minimum requirements and specifications that manufacturers have to pass if they want to sell their products in each state. And for United States, these requirements and test procedures are presented in section 110 and 139 of part 571 of title 49 of CFR. A tire needs to have many properties at the same time, and manufacturers must consider many parameters. For example, environment and regulations, wear rate, load capacity, weight, noise, rolling resistance, high speed performance, traction and handling on dry and wet surfaces, and even aesthetics and many other properties and parameters that listing them here is out of your patience. But you just know that there are a lot, and unfortunately going in favor of one can affect adversely others. Also, a modern tire is very complex in structure and has many components, and each component itself is composed of many elements and ingredients, and changing each component in its design and also in its composition and elements can affect the tire properties in negative or positive way. So you can understand that how much it is scientific and experience-oriented designing a new tire for a specific application. Now we go to tire types. There are two major tire types in the market: bias and radial. Bias types are older and are divided into two types: belted and diagonal. I don't want to talk more about bias types here because they are mostly used on trucks, buses, road and farm machineries and aircrafts. But you just know that these tires have cores in their carcass or main body ply that are laid in bias or diagonal angles, if you could see them through the tire from the side. These cores go from bit to bit, and may there be many layers of them to give the tire that desired strength that is presented by load range, load index or ply rating. Please note that the ply rating that I said is just an index and number to present the strength of that tire, and is not necessarily number of cores or layers of the plies for that tire. Now, radial tires. Radial tires have cores in their carcass that are laid in radial direction, if you could see them through the tire from the side. These tires introduced for the first time in Europe and in mid-1940s, and their usage expanded in the world in 1970s, and today about 95% of the tires used on passenger cars and light trucks are radial type. Radial tires have many advantages in comparison to bias types. They have better durability in service, and also they have lower rolling resistance that results in better fuel consumption, and also they have better wear resistance on track tread surface, and also they have better stability and performance at high speed. But these tires have a strong and boosted tread section design that make production of them very complex and costly, and also they have a fairly harsh and bad riding on bad roads. For the following, please note that even though this video is about radial tires used on passenger cars and light trucks, but many information that are presented are the same and applicable for the tires used on trucks, buses, and aircrafts. However, aircrafts have some special tires with special characteristics that maybe I record another video about them for those who are interested in. Now let's study the structure of a typical tubeless radial tire. The main and critical components that you should know about them as a consumer are carcass or body ply, that is main body and structure of the tire, and is made of rubber, nylon, rayon, or polyester cords. Inner liner that acts as a tube for tubeless tires and makes the tire a tight bit cores or bundles that hold the tire firmly on the wheel. Bit apex that fills the gap above bit cores, and its geometry can affect comfort level and directional stability and steering performance of the tire. Sidewalls that protect sides of the tire against impacts and impression. Steel corded belt plies that reinforce radial tires in tread section and have positive effect on rolling resistance and fuel consumption. Typically, two belts are laid at opposing angles. Tread that is wearable component of the tire and contacts with the ground and interacts with the road. Now, tire production. Production of a tire has many steps and details, but simply I can say that each component of the tire is produced in different parts of the factory using different elements and procedures, and at the final steps of production they come together to form the tire. For example, bit cores that are made from carbon steel wires and are bronze plated can be purchased from a vendor and then rubber coated and turned into bundles and hoops that can be used on the tires. Another example is sidewall that can be reinforced with nylon and aramid and is made from a special rubber compound that is formulated to resist cracking and oxidation at the effect of heat, UV radiation, and even ozone gas. And at the final steps of production, they use something like a collapsible barrel or drum to put and mix these components and layers on each other. First, inner liner goes on the drum, and on that body plies are turned. Then the bit cores and bit apexes are placed over the body plies in a certain distances from each other, and then body plies and inner liner are turned up over the bits and rolled or stitched to keep the bits at their place. Then strips of sidewalls are placed on the both sides and cover bits and turned up body plies. Also, on another drum, steel corded belt plies are put together with the thread strips that are sized in a precise length. Then the two main uncured bodies are pressed together and make an unripe product called green tire. This green tire needs to be cured in a process called vulcanization to harden raw rubber and form crosslinks between polymer chains that results in that desired tire properties. This process happens under heat and pressure that is applied by a hot liquid or gas, and at the end of this process all the components and layers of tire are completely bound to each other, and the output is the tire that you know. Those markings that are on the sidewall and also details of the thread pattern are formed in this process. Even those whiskers that are known technically as vent spheres are formed in this process. In fact, there are uncured rubber that are forced out by the air that is trapped between layers of the tire during curing. These rubber sands do not have any function on the tire, but by finding them on the thread surface of a tire, you can be sure that that tire has not been used before. But production of a tire is not as this simple that I explained, and there are many technicalities and details, and since details are very important, so manufacturer and brand of the tire is very important. Let me to talk more scientific and technical. Majority of materials that are used in industry have almost the same Young's modulus among their alloys, and with the same geometry we can say that they have almost the same stiffness among these alloys. But in a tire we have different materials materials with different stiffnesses that are flexing together. So under tensile and shear loads, we need to battle with separation. And conception of this phenomenon and the solution by designers vary for each manufacturer. Also imagine that the manufacturer uses thinner strands for ballistic cords, that cost of brass plating and twisting them to each other increases, but the result is better fracture of fatigue resistance and quality of the thread section of that tire. And another manufacturer uses thicker strands for this purpose, and the result is weaker and lower quality belt strips and thread section of that tire. But do you need to know all of these technicalities and details of production for each manufacturer when you go to buy a new tire for your car? Certainly the answer is a no. A good product follows along good reputation, and you just need to consult those technicians who are working in this field or those who have used these brands and products for their cars. Also, I'm planning to record another video about these manufacturers and brands and their qualities, and if you follow my channel you can watch that in the future. Now let's go to those markings on sidewalls. First of all, please note that subsection 5.5 of section 139 of part 571 of Title 49 of CFR requires some specific markings on tires, and since many countries adopted these standards, almost all passenger car and light truck tires have these data on their sidewalls. But on the sidewalls of tire, usually most of the free space is used by manufacturers to mark their trademarks in big and bold letters. They are company or manufacturer name, product or tire name, and sometimes thread pattern name or code. Other information are tire size designation like 225/40R16. First 3 digits indicate width section of that tire in millimeters. 2 digits after a slash indicate aspect ratio that is defined as a result of section height divided by section width multiplied by 100. So how much this number be smaller indicates a smaller shoulder or a sported tire. Next letter indicates type of the tire. It can be R indicating radial, or D indicating bias diagonal, or B indicating bias belted. Next 2 digits show the size of the wheel that this tire can be mounted on, and this number is in inch. After some space, you can see numbers and a letter known as service description. According to the European standards, the 2 or 3 digits show the load index, and the letter is known as a speed symbol. About this service description, I explain in the following. But according to American standards, the load capacity of the tire is indicated by maximum load, and also the tire has to be marked by the maximum pressure that the tire needs to be inflated to bear this maximum load. Tire ply composition is another data that is mandated by Americans to be marked on the tires. On tires, you can find some digits and letters after letters of DOT that represents Department of Transportation of the United States. And these digits and numbers are known as tire identification number, that gives you information about tire factory, size, type, and last 4 digits show the manufacturing date. First 2 digits indicate which week of the year, and the next 2 digits indicate year of the production. Like 3520, that shows a tire is produced in 35th week of the year of 2020. Tire identification number can be used by tire manufacturers to contact you in the case of a recall if you had done registration at the time of buying. And according to section 104 of part 575 of Title 49 of CFR, since 1979, passenger tire manufacturers are mandated to test their products on some standard tracks and test machines and present and mark the results on the tires for properties regarding tread wear grade, traction grade, and temperature grade. And consumers can compare the results and grades and select them accordingly. Tread wear grades are in numbers, and how much the number is bigger, where the resistance of that tire is better. For traction, C indicates minimum and AA is best traction. And for temperature, C indicates that the tire degrades soon, and with B and A letters, that tire has better life and performance when exposed to high temperatures in extended time periods. These three grades are known as uniform tire quality grading, and to pinpoint them, they test tires and compare the results with an industry standard one. And also there are some other information on the tires that may not be very technical, like cautions and warnings, country that the tire is made in, standard signs, and some information relating to other countries, indication that the tire is tubeless or tube type, and some information that are marked on discretion of manufacturers. Near the tread you can find a marking as TWI or a triangle. That is an indication of where tread wear indicators are placed on tread pattern. And these tread wear indicators are 1/16 of an inch or 1.6 millimeter raised bars that when tread surface reaches these bars, the tire needs to be changed according to the regulations. Okay, let's go back to tire size code and designation. Even though Europeans don't use any letter before tire size codes, but Americans use P, LT, or T before these codes, and they represent that the tire is for passenger car, light truck, or it is temporary spare tire. For passenger and light truck types, the coding system is known as P metric and LT metric, and for temporary spare tire, it's known as T type. Now back to service description. The load index and speed symbol that are in service description are related to each other. In fact, load index, as the name implies, is an indication of maximum load that the tire is tested for and can handle safely in maximum speed that is indicated by a speed symbol. For both of them, you need different charts to decipher them. These charts are presented in tire manufacturers' catalogs and websites. For example, its service description of 92V indicates that the tire load capacity is 1389 pounds or 630 kilograms, and maximum speed is about 150 miles per hour. But for speed symbols, there are some points that I want to talk about. And first, please note that the maximum speed that is indicated by the speed symbol is the maximum speed that the tire is tested under some specific conditions, and reaching to this speed on your car can result in rupture of the tire and accidents. Second, when you see Z or Z letter in tire designation, it indicates that this tire has the maximum speed of more than about 150 miles per hour or 240 kilometers per hour. And in this case, a speed symbol shows the exact maximum speed for that tire. And if you see Y in brackets, it means that the tire has the maximum speed of more than 300 kilometers per hour. Now, tires inflation pressure. Inflation pressure of a tire depends on some factors like temperature and the load that is applied on that. So inflation pressure has to be adjusted according to them. A tire to have optimum performance in braking, steering, and handling, and also to have a good traction on the road, needs to have its tread width almost completely in contact with the road. This complete contact happens when the tire has the right inflation pressure according to the load that is applied on that. In the condition that we have overinflated tire, that a small load is applied on that, sides of the tire lose contact with the road. And if we have an underinflated tire and the load is heavy, center of the tire has a loose contact with the road. So you can understand the importance of having right inflation pressure according to the load that is applied on a tire. Based on this information, when car manufacturers want to select a tire for a car, they go to a tire with maximum rated load that is more than the load that they anticipate that tire is going to be subjected when installed on that car. They calculate the pressure that the tire should be inflated at different loads by proportioning those loads with maximum load of that tire, and mark these axle loads and inflation pressures on a placard that is attached to the inside of the driver's side B pillar. These inflation pressures are considered to be cold inflation pressures of that tire. And here cold means that the tire temperature is almost the same as ambient temperature. So if you have driven your car for less than 1 mile in moderate speed, or it has been parked for more than 3 hours, its tires are considered to be cold. So you can understand the importance of having a calibrated pressure gauge in your car to check for pressure of the tires at least once per month or before they have a long distance operation. There are some other technical issues that I think you should know about inflation pressure. You should know that air permeates through the inner liner of the tires, so it is normal that the tire loses about 1 psi pressure per month. Also, you should know that radial passenger tires look almost the same, even with 12 to 15 psi deviation from recommended inflation pressure. So never rely on your eyes for controlling inflation pressure of a tire. And you should note that a 5 degree Fahrenheit change in temperature of the air inside of the tire is also about 1% change in its inflation pressure. So never try to adjust the tire when it is hot, but if it's necessary to do that, you can adjust about 4 psi more than cold inflation pressure of that tire, but remember to readjust that when the tire gets cold. And also you should know that the spare tire of your car needs to be adjusted for inflation pressure when other tires of your car adjusted for that. And also you should know that underinflation can lead to excessive heat generation, increased fuel consumption, and even permanent damage to the tire that are not visible from the outside, and even in some cases tire explosion. And overinflation can make the tire more susceptible to damage, cuts, and punctures at the effect of impacts. And also you should know that putting valve caps on inflation valves can prevent corrosion damage to the valve cores, and even in some cases prevent the leakage and pressure loss from these inflation valves. And also you should know that before you go for off-road driving, do a thorough visual inspection of your tires and adjust their inflation pressure according to the manufacturer's recommendations. It's very critical that you as a driver know the condition of your tires, just like when you are going for hiking or climbing, and you make a conception of the condition of your shoes, and based on that you take your steps on rocks, sands, and other surfaces that you go over. For off-road driving, you can deflate your tires partially to have a better grip on terrains, but it's very important that you have a right feeling about effect of this deviation on your tires performance. Be careful in off-road driving and be aware of the weakness of radial tires when they come in contact with sharp edges that can damage their tread section and when get the tire pinched against wheel rim. And also remember to readjust your tires inflation pressure before you go on pavement and highways. Now let's go to discussion of buying new tires. The primary recommendation for this subject is that you refer to your owner's manual recommendations and instructions, and if that manual doesn't prohibit my recommendations, you can use them in your buying attitude. My recommendations are that you never ever select a tire with a smaller size or less load capacity than the tire that is specified on your car's tire placard. Also, inflation pressure of that substitute tire at the load that it is going to be subjected when installed on your car never has to be less than the inflation pressure that is indicated on your car's tire placard. This matching and inflation adjustment requires experience and referring to pressure to load charts of that substitute tire. So if you are not familiar with this procedure, refer to a qualified technician to select that substitute tire and its inflation pressure for you. And also remember that there are some technical issues and calculations when you want to go from original light truck tires to passenger types. So if you have a light truck or SUV, be cautious about this type of substitution. Now, maybe you are considering buying low aspect ratio tires for your car. And please note that sporty or low aspect ratio tires are more susceptible to damage when they are passing over potholes or other objects like curbs. And since there is less amount of air inside of these tires, they have a more firm riding, and also tread surface on these tires make more noise when they are passing over pavement. On the other hand, these tires provide your car with better handling, especially in turns, and because they are mounted on bigger wheels, you can have bigger brake discs that can enhance your car braking performance if that retrofitting is done by a reputable shop. And maybe you are considering buying run flat or zero pressure tires for your car, and probably you know that these tires, if get punctured, can be driven for about 50 miles in moderate speed of less than 50 miles per hour. These tires are relatively expensive because they have used an advanced technology in shoulder section of these tires to reinforce them against bottoming. But using these tires on your car requires that your car be equipped with tire pressure monitoring system, and also some owner manuals don't advise to use these tires on that car. The main purpose of these tires is that you don't need to change or have a spare tire on your car, but installing these tires on the wheel and also repairing them requires some special trained technicians and conditions. Now, maybe you are considering changing your summer type tires to all season or winter type or vice versa. All the difference between these tires are related to tread material and its pattern. Summer type tires have a more smooth tread surface and they have a tread material that is more suitable for higher temperatures and they are cheaper. But on winter type tires, there are more lateral grooves and sipes that provide the tire with better gripping and cutting on ice and snow. Also, they have tread material that can maintain its elasticity in very lower temperatures. Also, some manufacturers add studs on winter type tires to improve their traction, but due to dust production effect of these tires, they are prohibited in some states. So please refer to your state's regulations about these studded winter type tires. Winter tires are tested for more severe winter conditions like ice and very deep snow, and they are marked with an alpine symbol on the sidewalls. But all-season type tires are tested for less severe winter conditions like shallow mud and snow, and they are marked with M+S on the sidewalls. In fact, these all-season type tires can maintain their elasticity in temperatures lower than 45 degrees Fahrenheit, and also they can have a fairly good performance on hot surfaces. Now, in winter driving conditions, whether you are using all-season type tires or winter type tires, it's highly recommended that you change your tires if their tread depth is less than 4 millimeters. Now, if you have a pair of winter tires, where do you put them? On the front axle or on the rear? Almost always, and specifically in winter driving conditions, vehicle control and safe operation of your car depends on rear tires. So if you have a pair of winter type tires, you must put them on the rear axle. Also, for better stability and control of your car, it's highly recommended that all tires of your car be the same type, unless otherwise is specified on your car's owner manual. Now, for tire rotations that are recommended to be done for tires after each 5,000 miles, if you have a new tire, you must pair that new tire with the tire of your car that has the deepest tread and put them on the rear axle. But remember that even a slight difference between outer diameter of the tires used on one axle can cause trouble codes and ABS light to flash. Also, this deviation can be detrimental for differentials and powertrain, especially for four-wheel drive cars. But when you are rotating tires, pay attention to tire types and do not mix radial tires with bias type or winter type tires with summer types or low aspect ratio tires with normal types on one axle. Also consider that some tires have directional tread pattern that participating them into rotation requires them to be dismounted from the wheel. In general, I recommend that you refer to your owner's manual because I have seen that almost all of them have some instructions and recommendations about this procedure. But what to do if you have a puncture or damage on your tires? There is a general guideline that you can use when you encounter a damage or puncture on your tires. And this general guideline states that the punctures that are not on tread area or are in tread area but are larger than 6 millimeters in diameter, and also damage that are to the extent that make metal or fabric cores of your tire get visible, make that tire unserviceable and reject it. For other cases, you can refer to a qualified technician to decide about reuse or repair that tire. And also, when you are on the road and your tire gets punctured, as you know, you should change that punctured tire with your spare tire. And if your car is equipped with air compressor and service toolkit, use them to get to a service shop to repair your tire with a qualified rubber stem and patch. And avoid using those aftermarket sealants that are injected into the tire through inflation valves. Such products may be flammable and potentially explosive, and even can damage your tire pressure monitoring sensor and even void your tire's warranty. And finally, maintenance and storage of the tires. Probably you know that nitrogen is highly recommended to be used for inflation of high pressure tires that are used on aircrafts and some road construction machineries that have the possibility of explosion in some certain situations. And also, since this gas is inert and has bigger molecules in comparison to the oxygen of the air, it can result in better performance of these high pressure tires. But for normal passenger car and lug truck tires, you can use air or any mixture of air and nitrogen that is available, and maybe you know that about 80% of the air is nitrogen. And avoid leaving your tires installed on your car for an extended period of time statically, as this situation can cause deformation to your tires structure, even though majority of these deformations disappear after a few miles of operation. And avoid contact of your tires with petroleum-based materials and liquids. And if you want to clean your tires, use non-petroleum-based cleaners that are compatible with rubber, or use simple soap and water. And also know that rubbers that are used on tires are susceptible to deterioration and oxidation when they are exposed to excessive heat, UV radiation, and oxygen and ozone that is present in the air. So try to protect your tires against sunlight, electric motors, generators, battery chargers, welding equipment, and excessive air circulations. And if you have a tire that you want to store that for a long time, try to keep that mounted on the wheel with some inflation pressure. But if you have a few tires that you want to store them for a long time without wheel, you can stand them upright and rotate them every 4 weeks, but don't pile them on each other for a long time. If you follow these recommendations, I don't see any lifetime for your tires, but many tire manufacturers recommend that you scrap the tires that have passed over 10 years since their production date. I hope that this video was useful and informative for you and worth the precious time that you spend for watching that. Please subscribe to my channel if you like, and press the bell icon to be notified if I have a new video on my channel. Bye.